Hey, hi, and howdy, sweet friends. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you are new. My name is Courtney, and I do food and kitchen content. That's like weekly grocery hauls and cooking videos. Usually I have at least 2 videos up every week, but holiday seasons are here. Oh my gosh, it's my favorite time of year. I love holiday cooking, and I've already started working on some holiday projects, so expect to see a few extra videos sprinkled in for a while. Anyway, if that is your thing and you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that button now. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does put a smile on my face and it helps support my channel. All right. Meal prepping is the name of my game right now. If you're new, I am a homeschool mom, and currently we're in a busy season of life. I spend a lot of time homeschooling my kids. We also belong to a homeschool co-op where I facilitate some classes there, 3 classes a week. And then I have a little side Etsy business, plus I do this YouTube, and then a household and a family. So right now, things are just busy. We're reaching the end of our fall term, so next week's our last week. And then I have a little bit of a break because winter term is social. But for now, we are still sticking with meal prep. So we're going to kick it off with this pork. This is Cafe Rio sweet pork. I will link the recipe down below. I've seen a bunch of people make this, and I actually found a number of different recipes. I've made this before, but the recipe that I used before was totally different. And I'm going to tell you guys, I like this one so much better. The flavor was incredible. Now, I went into this expecting that I was going to be making 2 dishes from it, and I only ended up making 1, but we'll remedy that soon. So I'm just throwing in some salt and pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, chili powder, smoked paprika. It calls for a can of diced green chilies, but I have those fire roasted hatch chilies that I buy seasonally and keep in my freezer. I also threw in some brown sugar and then some salsa. I'm just using like a picante style salsa. It's the Walmart brand of Pace. It tastes really good. It has a ton of flavor to it. It's got chopped up veggies in it. For me, it is a wonderful addition in the kitchen because I use it in a lot of different dishes. But this is a slow cooker recipe, but we're going to do it pressure cooker style because it works well that way, and I'm kind of in a rush. So I just pressure cook this on high for 28 minutes. I am using pork carnita cut meat. I buy that at H-E-B, but any cut of pork or beef you can really make work for this. All right, so while that's doing its thing, we're going to work on these Greek-style meatballs. Oh, no, it's a turkey piccata meatball. That's what it is. So I've got some ground turkey. I'll link the recipe for this down below. I have more turkey than what it calls for, so I'm kind of winging a few things here. I've got almost 2 pounds right there. And I'm going to start by zesting in a lemon. Now, I love the addition of lemon zest to any and everything. It is so bright and beautiful and flavorful, and it just really can help round out a lot of dishes. If you don't have a microplane or a zester, just use your vegetable peeler and make sure you just get thin strips shaved off the side of your lemon and then just mince it up with your knife. No big deal. It works great. I'm also adding in some dried parsley. If you have fresh, even better. I do not. I just have the dry stuff, and that's fine too. We're also going to season this up. I've got some thyme there. Of course, you'll want to add some salt and some pepper, some garlic powder, some onion powder. Just basically your regular spice blend that you put in a lot of things like this. Nothing too fancy. These are super good. I'm going to tell you right now, I was a little bit nervous. I always get nervous when I'm working with poultry, making something like this, that it's going to, 1, be dry, or 2, lack in flavor. But as you can see, we put a lot of spices and stuff in there, and these are so delicious. This is one of the meals, because I do the Mediterranean diet. I've not been as strict about it lately, but this meal is actually fine for me to eat on the Mediterranean diet. So I did eat this one. I love it. It is so, so good. I put an egg in here. I'm going to tell you guys, mixing with your hands is always the way to go, but I am not a fan. I just kind of don't like the feel, even with gloves on. So if I can skip that, I usually will work with a spoon or something. So I'm going to get this mixed up. We still have to add breadcrumbs, but I really like to incorporate my egg and my spices and herbs first, because I feel like if I do that before I add the breadcrumbs, they kind of incorporate throughout. But once I get that all just really nicely incorporated in there, I'm going to add some breadcrumbs. Now, I am just using Italian seasoned breadcrumbs. You can use plain, you can use panko. You could use whatever you've got handy, and that's perfectly fine. The recipe gives measurements, but like I said, I actually have more turkey in here than what the recipe called for, so I'm kind of eyeballing it. I've made a ton of meatloaf and meatballs in my life, and I'm pretty good at figuring out what's going to work and what's not going to work. When you're working with ground poultry, it is not going to feel like ground beef. It is going to be different. It's going to be kind of slimier. It's going to be stickier, but that's fine. You don't want to make it where it's not sticky at all, because then your meatballs or meatloaf will be super duper dry. So just be prepared for this to be a little bit messier to work with than ground beef would or ground pork, but that's going to turn out a really good product in the end. So I've got my baking sheet there and I lined it with some parchment paper, and I'm just using a cookie scoop to portion these out. I'm not going to roll these. You can if you want to. The craggly edges kind of get crispy and offer some texture, so it doesn't bother me. If I have a little bit too much, I'll kind of just push the sides in a little bit to shape them a little bit more, but I'm not going to roll them. Working with poultry and rolling it is super messy, and they'll really just start to come apart if I'm not careful. It's better if I just loosely pack them like this and bake them, because they will come out so tender and so juicy. So I just popped them in my oven, and we're going to cook them. I did them at 400 degrees for about 15 minutes. You want to check the temperature though and make sure they're fully cooked. To go with it, we're going to be making this orzo. This is also included in the recipe. So I've got some olive oil and I measured out 1 cup of orzo. We're just going to kind of saute that for a few minutes. Let it develop a little nuttiness and flavor. It's always nice when you cook pastas and rice and stuff like this. Think of rice-a-roni from the box. You know, you always saute that a little bit before we add our liquids. Same deal here. So I zested another lemon, and that was me just adding the zest right on in there. If you hold your microplane upside down to zest, it'll just hold that lemon zest for you until you're ready to dump it in, which is what I did. I like letting the heat hit it because it helps release all those essential oils in the zest and really unlocks that flavor. Next, we want to add in our cooking liquids. So I've got some water and I have got some lemon juice. You can also do white wine. I'm doing chicken broth, so that's why I'm throwing in some bouillon right now. That's what the water was for. But if you have some white wine, you can kind of mix the two or skip the lemon juice. I didn't have any white wine, and I'm going to tell you this was fantastic. Now, we do want to season this. If you wanted to, you could use some fresh diced onion and garlic. I wasn't in the mood to deal with that, and I still need to make my confit garlic because I'm out. So I just went ahead and used garlic and onion powder. We're going to throw in some pepper. I skipped the salt because of the citrus that I put in here and the bouillon, which is super salty. I didn't feel like I needed any salt. I'm also adding in capers, which are super salty. And then I went ahead and threw in some parsley and some thyme. And we're just going to let this cook. This is the right amount of liquid to cook this pasta. And it's going to be super delicious. It takes about 15 or so minutes. I popped the lid on for just a couple of minutes to help it come to a boil faster, but otherwise I left the lid off so the liquid could also help evaporate. So while that's cooking, we've also got our pork going. We're going to roast some veggies. I grabbed these when I ran into H-E-B the other day. They're organic green beans. They're washed, they're trimmed, they're ready to go. So I just dumped them out onto a baking sheet. If you see any that are kind of questionable, go ahead and pull them out. That's what I did. And I also want to roast some zucchini. So I'm just chopping it in really big chunks like that. And I'm trying to get it cut side up so that when I season it, the season will stick to it a little bit better. We're not doing anything terribly fancy here. We are just going to roast some veggies. We'll season these pretty simply. I've got my oven still kicked up to 400 because the meatballs are finishing. I'm just spritzing these with some avocado oil. You can do olive oil if you want to. Whatever you have on hand is fine. And you can really season them any way you want, but I am keeping it pretty basic with salt, pepper, and garlic powder and onion powder. I feel like those are pretty well rounded. They taste great. I'll mix the green beans up a little, but I'm just going to leave the zucchini face up like that. And I'm going to bake this for about 15 to 20 minutes. I like a little texture left, so you can cook them longer if you want them softer, or you could throw them in the air fryer, but my oven was already on, so why not? The meatballs, as you can see, are done, and our orzo's done, so I just mixed it all together, and it's good to go. Next, we're going to move on to some homemade spaghetti sauce. I had some veggies that needed to be cleaned out of my fridge. I didn't thaw any meat out for this because originally I wasn't sure I was really going to make it, and I thought the pork would go further. But here we are. So I have some onions, some bell pepper, and celery and carrots. Those were all just hanging out in my fridge and they needed to be used. So I went ahead and just diced them up and I threw them in here and sauteed them. Like I said, I have no meat, but I did have some mushrooms. So I did like a real fine mince on some baby Bella mushrooms. And they're going to be like, you know, the meatiness to our sauce. Also, they have amazing flavor. Because I diced them up really fine, my husband's not a fan of biting into mushrooms, but he does like the flavor. So this isn't going to bother him at all. Now, of course, you could always add meat in there, and that's fine. I just didn't have any ready to go, and it's not a big deal. I did have some pesto in my fridge, so I decided I was going to go ahead and throw some of that in there just because I need to use it up and get it out of there. And I mean, you can't go wrong with basil and garlic and olive oil in any kind of pasta sauce. I did also throw in a little bit of Italian seasoning because we're making a pretty big batch of sauce here. I'm also throwing in some dried parsley just because I like it. I think it tastes great. And then because we have no meat, I am going to kind of like zhuzh this up with some beef bouillon. I'm going to add some water in a minute. So essentially it would be beef broth. So if you have beef bone broth or anything like that, that would be a great thing to throw in here. We're just going to stir this around. It just kind of wakes up the herbs and spices and stuff for a minute. And then we'll start adding in our liquids. I'm adding in 1 8-ounce can of tomato sauce and 1 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. That could also be diced tomatoes, whole tomatoes, whatever you've got. I'm also going to fill those 2 cans with water and dump the water back in here. And when you mix that with the beef bouillon, basically we're doing beef broth. This is a lot of liquid, I know, but we're going to add our pasta in here to cook in this liquid. And I'm going to tell you, cooking your pasta in the sauce is amazing. The flavor is so much better and it releases the starch into the sauce and just really makes this beautiful creaminess. I love it. I have this half-length spaghetti, which is perfect for this dish. I know breaking spaghetti is a sin, but this one came out of the box that size, so I think we're okay. It fits perfectly. You just want to kind of make sure it's mostly submerged in the liquid. I like to stir this every 5 minutes or so as it cooks, and it takes about 15 to 20 minutes because it's not quite up to a boil yet. But this is some of the best pasta when you cook it in the sauce like that. It's just amazing. So while it does its thing, we're going to roll our enchiladas over here. I've got corn tortillas and I've got that pork. I just shredded it with my meat masher and left it in the sauce and it was good to go. It tastes amazing, by the way. If you're making really real enchiladas, you'll want to add some cheese in there, but my oldest doesn't like cheese, so I decided no cheese on these. We'll just put cheese on top whenever I heat them up if anyone wants cheese. So I'm just rolling them up in some corn tortillas. Now, traditional enchiladas use corn tortillas. If you want to use flour tortillas, be leery. They might get soggy. I feel like corn's going to hold up better. I heated these up. I just wrapped them in aluminum foil and put them in the oven with those veggies to heat them up. Normally, I would par fry them in a little bit of oil, but I didn't want to take the time to do that, so I just did it this way, which was fine. I also am just topping them with a little bit of red enchilada sauce. You could do red, you can do green, you can do both. It's up to you. I felt like red was the perfect pairing for this, though. And again, I'm not putting any cheese on top right now, but as I heat these up for my husband, I always top them with cheese because he likes cheese on his enchiladas. And of course, I just paired them with that zucchini, which I think was a really good choice. The zucchini kind of getting in that enchilada sauce tastes really, really good. But that's all there is to it. You just heat them back up in the microwave. All of these are in these plastic meal prep containers by Hefty that I get from Sam's Club. And I just pop them in the microwave. They stack nicely in the fridge. They're easy to maintain. But here's all the dishes. There's that pasta, which was incredible. Cooking in the sauce, again, it makes it so much better. It's a simple trick that just elevates your pasta dish. Even a simple pasta with no meat like this really kicks it up a notch. This one was my favorite, the roasted green beans with the turkey piccata meatballs and the orzo. Oh, so good. But I'm a huge fan of lemon. I think it just really makes everything so vibrant and delicious. And this one really hit the spot for me. Plus capers. Oh, I love capers so much. But that does it for this week's meal prep. I hope you guys like this one. All the recipes are linked down below so you can try them out at home. Hope you guys had a wonderful Halloween, and I hope you're having an amazing weekend. I'll see you back here on Tuesday for my weekly grocery haul. Love you guys.